The studio lights were already blazing when the air suddenly went cold, and the moment Tyler Perry rose from his chair, jaw tight, eyes wet with something deeper than anger, everyone watching felt that something fragile had just shattered on live television. If you believe in hope, compassion, and second chances, take a breath with us here and ask yourself what you would do when a lifetime of silence finally breaks. Viewers of Kindness Corner, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, because stories about humanity only matter when we choose to listen. This story unfolds as a fictionalized, cinematic dramatization inspired by the pressure of public moments, not a claim of real events. It begins on a bright Manhattan morning, sunlight pouring through the tall glass windows of a bustling studio where everything is designed to look calm even when it isn't. Tyler arrived early, dressed sharply, posture composed, carrying the quiet weight of a man who had climbed from nothing into everything, and still felt the echoes of where he came from. Behind the polished smile lived a childhood shaped by instability, a past marked by survival rather than safety. Each success had been earned with bruises no camera ever saw. Across from him sat Michael Strahan, confident and practiced, a man who had learned to thrive under pressure since his earliest days chasing excellence. His path had been different, yet not without struggle. He believed in directness, in confronting moments head-on, trusting that honesty, even sharp honesty, could cut through confusion. What neither man realized was how close the conversation was drifting toward a wow neither had prepared to expose in public. The interview began smoothly enough. Cameras rolled, producers nodded, daylight shimmered off polished floors. Questions moved from achievements to legacy, from films to philanthropy. But beneath the surface, tension stirred. Tyler's hands tightened slightly each time the conversation brushed against his upbringing, his responsibility to represent stories of pain and faith, his refusal to simplify suffering for applause. He had spent decades building a space where voices like his could exist without apology. Every word he spoke felt like a defense of that space. As the questions sharpened, the room seemed to shrink. Tyler felt the old weight rise, the same feeling he had known as a child when adults spoke about his life without understanding it. The pressure of being misunderstood, of having his story reduced to a headline, pressed against his chest. His breath slowed. His mind flickered between the studio and memories of nights when survival depended on silence and endurance. Michael, sensing resistance but misreading its depth, leaned forward with professional intensity. He believed clarity came from pushing through discomfort. But he couldn't see that for Tyler. This wasn't discomfort. It was reopening a door he had fought years to close gently. The bright studio lights now felt harsh, exposing rather than illuminating. Tyler's eyes darted briefly to the floor, then to the cameras, then inward, where a lifetime of restraint finally cracked. When Tyler stood, it wasn't anger that moved him, it was exhaustion. The exhaustion of carrying expectation, of translating pain into inspiration for others, of being strong on demand. The chair scraped softly against the floor, a sound far louder than it should have been. Crew members froze. Viewers leaned closer to their screens. Tyler's decision wasn't dramatic in motion, but it was seismic in meaning. He chose himself in a moment the world expected performance. Backstage, the noise of the studio faded into a hollow quiet. Tyler leaned against a wall, eyes closed, hands shaking. He wasn't walking away from a person. He was stepping away from a moment that asked him to bleed on cue. He questioned himself instantly. Had he failed, overreacted, disappointed? But beneath the doubt was a small, steady truth. Boundaries were not weakness. Michael remained seated, the weight of the moment settling over him in delayed waves. For the first time, he wondered if strength sometimes meant listening rather than pressing forward. He replayed the exchange in his mind, recognizing the fine line between curiosity and intrusion. He had faced physical battles his whole life, but emotional ones like this were different, quieter, harder to measure, and easier to mishandle. As the day wore on, messages poured in from all sides: support, criticism, confusion. Tyler watched the city move outside his car window, sunlight reflecting off buildings like reminders that life continued regardless of viral moments. He thought about the younger version of himself who had never been given the option to walk away. That boy would have stayed silent. This man did not. Later, in the calm of a private room, a conversation unfolded away from cameras and expectations. It wasn't about blame. It was about understanding the cost of public vulnerability and the responsibility that comes with asking personal questions in front of millions. Two men, both shaped by pressure, finally saw each other beyond roles and resumes. Before we reach the final moments, take a second to comment below. Your voice matters, and someone reading it may need to know they're not alone. Near the end of this story, if it touched your heart or made you reflect, please support Kindness Corner with a like, a share, or a subscription. These stories live through empathy. In the final light of the afternoon, Tyler stood alone by a window, the city glowing gold beneath him. He realized that walking away had not been an ending, but a beginning, proof that even in the most public moments, a person is allowed to choose dignity over expectation. Somewhere else in the city, Michael reflected on the power of restraint, understanding that growth often comes not from pushing harder, but from pausing long enough to truly see. And for everyone watching, the moment lingered as a quiet reminder that courage sometimes looks like leaving the room, and trusting that your truth will still be heard.